Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the 2020 Courage and Leadership Award presentation and panel discussion. I'm Chad Kleinens, President and CEO of Zweig Group, and today I am live broadcasting from the offices of LJA Engineering in Houston, Texas, where we will announce the 2020 Jerry Allen Courage and Leadership Award winner. Now, this ceremony is unlike any other in Zweig Group history, just as the time we are living in is unlike any time in history. This award is given each year to someone working in AEC who has demonstrated in a unique way personal courage in their actions that have impacted their firm. This year, the award goes to a titan in the industry, an individual who has transformed a company and transformed lives. Someone who embodies courageous leadership at home, at work, and in the community. But before we announce this year's winner, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Zweig, founder and chairman of Zweig Group, who will give a little insight on the inspiration behind this award and who the award is named after, Jerry Allen.
Thank you, Chad. Hey, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. We created this award a number of years ago to honor an individual who shows exemplary courage and leadership in the AEC industry. Jerry Allen was a guy whom I worked for. I started working for Jerry, I guess I was 27 years old, and he was the executive vice president at Carter and Burgess. I said I started working for him. He was my mentor. He was not my boss. My boss was Wilton Hammond, who was the CEO. But Jerry was the guy who made it happen. And when he assumed the CEO role at Carter and Burgess in 1989, job I never thought they'd put him in because he was a shit disturber, if you'll forgive me for using the term. He was the guy who constantly brought up what we were doing wrong and how to fix it. Because when he did become the CEO in 1989, he set out a very bold vision for the company. He confronted every single legacy problem that he inherited, and he transformed the company into a amazing powerhouse, 10, 12 times larger than it was when he assumed the helm. And because he was such a courageous fellow, this is why we created the Jerry Allen Courage and Leadership Award, and have been proud to give it to some other Jerry Allens out there who are making it happen in our business.
Thank you, Mark. For the past 3 years, we have surprised the winner of this award at our annual Black Tie Gala that is held in conjunction with our Elevate AEC conference. This year, like always, we received some amazing nominations, which always makes this process actually very difficult.
It's true.
In June, the selection committee selected this year's winner, and we got to work with his team to develop a video that would surprise him at our ceremony. Well, we all know that the in-person ceremony became an impossibility, but the challenge of this year's award goes far beyond what we ever could have imagined. In keeping with tradition, we will play the video that his team developed so you can get to know the man, the legend, and then I will present the award live.
Who would have known, way back then, that this man would go on to be LJA's most valuable player? Remarkably, those around him did. That's why they put him in charge, and we're so lucky he was. Calvin Ladner has tackled some of the most trying circumstances a business can encounter. A company buyout from a bad situation, embezzlement and betrayal by a trusted partner and friend, a devastating economic recession, a hurricane that decimated the main office, over 15 acquisitions, one a failure and one larger than expected, and then, of course, the pandemic of 2020. What set Calvin apart was the ability to leverage each of these challenges into growth opportunities for LJA. It was like pulling back an arrow in a bow to hit a bullseye. One setback meant 10 steps forward. Calvin knew how to overcome each obstacle, get us perfectly aligned to come out stronger, and lean into our future. Maybe the truest testament to Calvin's courage and leadership is that he built a company that would continue to grow and succeed because of him, but also without him. He knew he was leaving LJA in the hands of his favorite people, his employees and clients.
He just had this vision, or he just had this capability to plan. And that's reflected in the succession transition that he already had in place, right? We have the leadership that we need to continue his legacy.
The reason I came to LJ was because of him and the vision that he had for the firm. And I think the biggest thing that I saw out of it was, leaders aren't really judged by what they do. They're judged by the ability to make other people improve themselves and become leaders. He'd come in and he'd always be in a good mood. He'd typically have his Aggie coffee cup. He would ask, "How's it going today?" And I think that steadiness is so important at the top of any company, because a company's going to have highs and lows.
The thing that I most admire about Calvin's leadership was his ability to command, but with humility. Calvin was a very humble person. He was just so down to earth. He was truly salt of the earth. And that really allowed employees and clients to establish a great rapport with him, and it really allowed everyone to trust one another. I mean, hands down, Calvin was an amazing business person. Built a successful company, loved by clients and employees. Really just a model businessman. Calvin was my boss, but I tell you, he just felt like a friend. Every day that I came to work, I really looked forward to seeing Calvin. I looked forward to meeting with him. I looked forward to, talking business with him, debating issues. He was, personally to me, he was just a friend.
I think Calvin had the greatest sense of humor, and he was always able to look at things from different angles, and he was an extremely open individual. So I think those three qualities are really what made him a great leader.
The biggest thing that's really built this firm is he was never one to say no. He'd always question, but if you really believed in something, he'd let you go with it. And of course, I'd say 8 times out of 10 it would work. Of course, that's pretty good odds, and we'll take that anytime. And Calvin was a gambler, so anytime you can get 8 out of 10, you're gonna roll the dice. Work hard, play hard. That describes us, and that described him, and then why I joined LJA.
I looked towards Calvin for his leadership, obviously, but he was my mentor. I could confide in him. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. And he was my friend and my family. And after 16 and a half years working for somebody like that, he meant a lot to me.
At only 39 years of age, Calvin took the reins of LJA Engineering and never looked back. During that time, LJA has undergone amazing growth and enviable accomplishments. From 40 to 1,200 employees, from 1 office to 36 in 3 states, from 1 sector to 9 with over 300 service offerings, and rising from 381 to number 65 on the ENR Top 500. Calvin is the spirit behind our success. He was the heart of LJA, and we are lucky to have him deeply ingrained in our DNA. This was LJA's Houston company photo in 2019, and you can still see Calvin on the far right, where he has stood in every company photo, making sure his employees are always front and center.
When you look at his overall success, it goes back to employees and clients, and he just had a unique way of dealing with complex challenges with simple solutions, but he always kept the employees and clients in mind.
My favorite Calvinism is Calvin math. Everything was rounded up to the better advantage. Whatever was the best advantage, it was always Calvin math.
Every time you saw him, passed him in the hallway, he always said, "Having fun yet?" That's what he said. And it was everybody. It was everybody.
Out Waterburgered. You never wanted to be out Waterburgered. That would be outdone. You always wanted to be the best at what we did.
One of my most favorite Calvinisms is sprinkle the sugar. So clients and employees were very important to Calvin. That's all he talked about. And he knew that to take care of clients, you had to take care of your employees, of your folks. He took the LJ compensation systems and he spread them out throughout the year. He would say that he wanted to sprinkle the sugar.
It was built based on some very simple principles, right? And to this day, they still apply, right? The whole employees and clients, the grow or die, the states' rights, and of course, having fun and making money, right? And Calvin was really good at all of those.
It's put us where we are today, and we're going to do everything we can to make him proud and to continue his legacy and his leadership.
He loved our company and its people, employees and clients, with everything he had. Calvin fostered a deeply rooted sense of family. He mentored a culture where we can all thrive and be the best of ourselves. And most importantly, he leaves a legacy of immeasurable strength and success that we can proudly carry on.
I heard something in that video that reminded me of something I heard at every conference. Calvin would say, "Are you having fun yet?" And I would say, "No, Calvin, I'm not. I've been up for 64 hours straight without any rest." But you know what? Sandy, seeing you and Calvin there brightened that conference every year. This year, the Jerry Allen Courage and Leadership Award goes to Calvin T. Ladner, CEO of LJ Engineering, who we tragically and unexpectedly lost to COVID on August 18th. Calvin spent 23 years in the top leadership position and grew LJA to over 1,200 employees in 36 offices and 3 states, and to be the 65th largest engineering design firm in the United States. As you can see from the video, his employees loved him. One of the things that stood out to me in the award submission, the awesome awards application that his team submitted, was that it said Calvin would say that his only job, role in the industry is empowering every single one of the 1,200 plus LJ employee owners to reach their maximum potential. It is clear that he succeeded. Calvin's presence and impact was bigger than life, and we are here today to acknowledge that awesome life that he created for so many. A quote from the application read, "Although he shuns the limelight and personal accolades, he's always giving credit to employees and clients instead. He is a natural role model for everyone he meets, and he also looms large throughout the industry by reputation and LJ's amazing achievements while under his leadership." If he were here today, he wouldn't be able to disagree with that. So today is Calvin's Day as we celebrate courage and impact. To the family of Calvin Ladner and the extended LJA family, we proudly present the 2020 Courage and Leadership Award. Here today to accept the award is Calvin's wife for 42 years, Sandy, along with his son and daughter, Stuart and Caroline. Come on. Sandy, Stewart, and Caroline, thank you for sharing your husband and your father with me, the LJA team, the engineering community, and everyone he touched. We are all better off because of it. Calvin set an example of courageous leadership that was inspiring to me and many others in the industry. He exemplifies all of the qualities of this award, and his legacy will live on forever. So let's go forth from here and keep Calvin's legacy alive and focus on the impact that we too can have, inspired by the courageous leader, Calvin Ladner. I want to thank everyone for joining this important celebration today. We will continue to honor Calvin and talk about the impact of courageous leadership through our next part of the celebration. It's a panel discussion moderated by Mark Zweig with 3 previous Courage and Leadership Award winners. Our 2015 winner, Marianne Young, our 2017 winner, John McAdams, and our 2019 winner, Paul Greenhagen. Mark, thank you for creating this important award. Thank you everybody for being here to honor a legend, somebody who will inspire us for the rest of our careers and our lives. Mark, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Chad. And that was a great video and tribute to Calvin Ladner, somebody that we'll all miss tremendously. What a deserving honoree that we were able to select this year in Calvin. So I'm very proud of that. And I thank you for going to Houston to present the award. So today we're going to have a panel discussion. We've got limited amount of time, and we've got some important people here whose time is very valuable. So I just want to get right into it with Marianne, John, and Paul. Can everybody hear me out there? Okay.
Hear you fine.
Great. Marianne, let's start out with you. I just want to kick this thing off. All 3 of you are Courage and Award, Jerry Ellen Courage and Leadership Award winners. All 3 of you have a tremendous story and were so deserving of the award. But I had a few questions I'd like to ask you. And Marianne, first off with you, you started your career at Roy F. Weston, which was probably the most famous environmental consulting firm ever. Thanks to Roy F. Weston, who was a tremendous character. But working for such a large company as that, did it help prepare you for running your own business?
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't start my own business when I left Weston. In fact, Weston laid me off. And so therefore I was scrambling to figure out what to do. And I started work at a very small company, which I called Podunk. I was horrified actually at how small it was, and worked there for 9 years and developed that company and then purchased it. And that was 17 years ago. And so, yes, that absolutely gave me the tools I needed, although I did not realize them at the time, to run my own company. And I certainly have learned a lot more along the way.
I think that's great. You've been tremendously successful there. John, you got your MBA the same year I did, 1980, back when not everybody and their brother had an MBA, which seems to be the case today. But just out of curiosity, how did that help prepare you, or did it help prepare you for your journey as the founder and CEO of a privately held design firm?
Well, Mark, I have thought through all of the years of the company that I'm using my MBA education more than my engineering education. Yeah, I think it was critical to give me an understanding of the business. And if you're going to build a business, rather than just have your own practice, you need to understand business. You really do. And so that gave me a huge head up about it. Also, back in 1979, I actually I started the company while I was in the MBA program. the engineering firms, design firms worked differently. A lot of business was different back in that time, and a lot of design firms just focused on their practice of delivery of services to clients and not so much on actually the structuring of their company and the growing of it and the accommodation of their employees. My trip through the MBA program afforded me a perspective that I hadn't seen evident in the 3 firms I had worked for up until the time I started mine.
That's interesting. I was in an engineering firm in 1983, got my MBA in 80, but my boss, he had been through the MBA program the same time as me. And he said, can you imagine what would happen if we applied actual modern management to an AE firm? You know, that was a novel idea back at that time. And of course, that kicked off all of our careers, I guess, in a sense. Paul, I'd like to pick on you for a minute. You started out at Westwood as an RPS or a real man of the people, so to speak. Do you think that helped you grow Westwood into the business that it is today, that, you have sort of emerged from the ranks of the company?
Yeah, I started at Westwood running their first survey field crew. We were about, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20 people. And I started out in the field running the first survey crew and grew to a position where I ran all the survey crews, and then eventually got my professional license and led our survey team, and that afforded me the opportunity to lead us into energy later on, and then finally the CEO position. And I guess, I look at it and I say quite often that, I've had the opportunity to sit in all those seats along the way. So I understand what it's like to be in those seats, and I try to keep that front and center as I make decisions and think about the people, because this just is a very much a people business. And so yeah, I think that it's greatly helped me to be part of this company for 30 years and more than 30 years, and sit in all those seats and really get to know the people and get to know each and every one of the jobs.
I'm sure it has. So I'm going to open it up to anybody who wants to answer this one. What tips do you have right now for leaders who want to see their businesses grow and thrive in the current environment that we're operating in?
I'll take that if.
Sure, please.
I'll go back to it. Our people are our greatest assets, and as you look at coronavirus and all the things it's throwing at us, working remotely brings a lot of unique challenges, and I think it's important to listen and be understanding and responsive to your people, because everybody has different situations. We have some people that need to be careful because they're at risk from a health standpoint, or they have someone at home at risk, or they have elderly parents that they want to spend time with. So they have those type of reasons. Other people, they're teaching classes 3 days a week to their children because they have children at home, along with,
or 5 days
or 5 days a week in some cases. Absolutely. It depends on where you're at. And that's a huge challenge to put on top of managing their projects or doing design. So I think you need to listen, you need to understand, you need to be responsive, and I don't think at this point in time, I don't think you can over communicate. I think it's very important to communicate with your people and be transparent, because if you're not transparent with what's going on, I mean, we're in some crazy times. You know, people are going to make it up, and what they make up is probably much worse than the real reality. You know, work to keep your people healthy. You know, we've increased our mental health programs and wellness training and things like that. You know, try to keep them engaged. You know, find ways to maintain your culture. You know, with you know, activities. We do virtual happy hours. You know, for some of our people that are in the office, we still try to have those lunches. You know, they're a little different, but we still try to do those things. And, you know, I think at the same time, you need to be responsive to your clients, extra responsive. You know, don't stop marketing now. If you're not marketing to them, you know, your competitors are, and you know, you maybe can't take them to lunch, or you can't take them to the football game or whatever you usually do, or golf or whatever it might be. You know, some of those things you can do, but don't stop. Make sure you're marketing and communicating with them.
Makes good sense. What about the rest of you? Would either Marion or John like to tackle that one?
Sure. I'll say the biggest tip is remain calm. 2020 is a test for everyone, for sure, and it just keeps on coming. My partner says we're in Jumanji level 7. I think that was June, and now we're probably at level 40, and it isn't over yet. So I think we'll all be having quite some stories to tell about this year in the future. I certainly second what Paul has said about our wellness programs. We have had several Zoom programs or Zoom conferences with a counselor to just help us get through the fear of pandemic world in kind of May timeframe. And then with all the social unrest and challenges with Black Lives Matter, we had another program, and it just allowed people to talk about what they were feeling and kind of, you know, share with each other. And it's hard not to be present all in the office. And so we try to look at ways to, you know, to help people to cope with some of these challenges. And the challenges are huge, especially, you know, the childcare. And we haven't had any COVID positive tests at Brightfields, but we fully understand we could, and we have a plan in place of how to deal with that. Pretty much everyone in the company has been tested one or more times, and so they all know what the testing means, and they know how to get the testing quickly if they are thinking they're exposed, or if someone in their family gets sick. And so we didn't want any shock value to the testing process, and so we encouraged everybody to get tested at a variety of different places with a variety of different tests early on. We're doing okay.
Anything you want to say to this one, John?
Not a lot, but first of all, I have gotten to the stage where I do not run McAdams Company. Our CEO is Mike Munn, and he is absolutely fantastic. But I do have a couple of thoughts. One, in these times, hug your IT professionals. Boy, are they ever important.
Virtually.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, and support them and whatever it takes. We actually have hired another person in that area, and they are doing really, in all firms, IT folks are doing just amazing things, keeping us going.
Good point.
Yeah, so that is definitely one thing to do. As both Marion and Paul have said, keeping the social connections going in a way that needs to be safe is absolutely important. There are a lot of people, me in our firm most notably, who are just really missing the social aspects of the workplace. That is really very, very important. Well, okay, maybe there are a few that just like the solitude of being able to work quietly at home, but the vast majority of us miss the connections. When this first started and we all started working as a distributed workforce from home, I had a big question. How do you be a best firm to work for when nobody's at the firm, when everybody, you know, how do you make your culture be felt? And it is through those occasions, through the video, the Zoom meetings that you have, or the virtual beer parties where everybody brings their own. It is so important to do those things. Now, I'm not in it, but also through the day, a lot of people are in teams meetings, and so they are not quite as lonely as it might appear. And that is an important connector as well. So those are my thoughts.
Have
Yeah,
you
we're
all?
having
Oh,
we're
sorry.
having a Halloween party on Microsoft Teams coming up, so that should be fun with costumes and prizes.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you all been surprised as to how well you've been able to deal with things in spite of not having everybody in the office? I mean, if you think back as to what your thoughts might have been in March and where you are now, has it been easier than you thought it would be?
I'll start by saying that the resilience of our team members is quite amazing, and despite having complete uncertainty about where things were going, we kind of set several goals, and the goals were don't stop working. And we were very fortunate to be
That's
in Delaware
important.
instead of Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania was basically shut down for a serious couple of weeks. I mean, 6 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. We had to leave jobs in Pennsylvania and retreat to Delaware, but we did not have to shut down. And so we've never stopped working. And our goal is nobody dies of COVID, nobody gets hospitalized. We'll try not to get COVID, but if we get it, there's no stigma. We're just gonna work through it. We purchased some pulse oximeters, so if anybody gets sick, they get taken to the person's porch and left off, but so far we haven't had to use them. But that's the kind of thing where, like, with the crazy differences in direction about how to take care of yourself, we figured we just better learn it ourselves. And so we're all, medical researchers in addition to teachers and, consultants. And that way we're trying to get the best information to our staff. And are we surprised? I have to say, I'm not surprised in hindsight, but during the time I was pretty worried about how we were going to make out.
I'll agree with that. In March, mid-March, when this hit us, it was a surprising, scary time. It was very nerve-wracking at that point. But I'll go back to what John said earlier. Our IT team came through for us, and I think if this would have happened 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do the things that we were able to do to make everybody, give them all the opportunity to work remotely. And, we allowed anyone that needed to go home or felt they wanted to go home. And we allowed others to stay in the office if that's what they chose to do, and put in place social distancing rules and things like that. And, surprisingly, business dropped off during March and April, and by June and so forth, things started growing again. And we're really close to target for the year, and we had aggressive goals to start with. So I'm really happy with where we're at. I'm really proud of our team, from all aspects, whether it's IT or project managers or technicians. Everybody's done a great job this year in working together as a team to get over this.
How has COVID affected your leadership style, if at all, Paul? If you look back, from March till now,
Yeah.
have you changed anything you personally do?
If yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is new to all of us. None of us had experience with a pandemic. It wasn't, we had plans in place for recession, things like that, but not for a pandemic. I think COVID's really broadened my perspective on working remotely. I'm kind of an old school guy and I've always had to kind of be there. But, we found new ways to use technology. And, here we are having a panel discussion, on Zoom. And I think it's great. As we move forward, I think things are going to continue to evolve. We're not going back to 2019. 2021 is going to be different, and we need to be open to it's going to be different in some form or fashion. Our work environment's changing fast, and it's not going back to what it was. I think COVID really amplified the need to focus on culture and employee engagement, because it's really hard when people aren't all together. We're not having those luncheons, we're not having those face-to-face meetings, company parties. We're not building Habitat for Humanity houses together. It just, we're not doing the normal things. I'm not able to go and visit our offices like I usually do.
Sure.
But regular communication is probably more important than it ever has been. So, if you're not communicating and being transparent with your employees, like I said before, they're gonna make things up in their heads that are worse than what reality is. So, we still do our monthly town halls. They're just pre-recorded. We found different ways to do it. We've sent out surveys and provided communication channels for people to ask questions and make sure we respond to them in a timely manner.
Well, this is reinforces exactly what I've always said about open book management, that if you don't tell people how you're doing, they'll think you're doing worse than you are.
Absolutely.
If anything negative is happening in the external environment. So
Right.
that's a good point. How about either of the rest of you, Marion or John? Has this thing affected your personal leadership style or tactics?
I would say it's not really affecting my style. I have become a medical researcher. I was tracking this virus in January. I have a nephew that lives in China, and I like to keep up on medical news anyway. So I saw that it was coming. I saw instantly it was going to be problematic, but couldn't even imagine how it's shut down the world. So that part of it, I think we were maybe a little bit more in the know than a lot of people, because we saw it coming and we knew that it was an issue. Um, but as for how it's actually changed how we do business, honestly, the remote working it has been key for us, and it was easy for us to do. We did, quickly buy extra machines and ship them home to people, or printers, whatever they needed, scanners. But our way of doing business has remained the same. The toughest part, I think, has been onboarding people during the pandemic. They are struggling because they didn't get to meet everybody, and they're just taking a longer time to get integrated into the company, and it's really hard for them, and hard for people to know, like, what can I rely on them to do, because I don't really know them.
Makes sense.
If I may go back and
Please,
just
Jen.
respond to how the pandemic has affected us overall, I have been continuously just astounded that we are doing well. We are doing very well. In fact, we had very little dip at the beginning of this, and then a lot of our work is just taken off with a roar. Initially, about 5% of our projects were put on hold, we think, but it's that small an amount. About half of those later got restored. But our work has grown. Our clients don't want their projects stopped any more than we want to stop our work either. And so everybody is moving forward. We are booking new work. Our clients are paying their bills, and we are remarkably productive in these circumstances. Again, a good IT situation is essential to that. but also some people are finding some efficiencies, saving their commute time, recapturing that, and working amazingly diligently. I have been just astounded by that. We have grown during the recession. We have added, I don't know, 12, 15 people throughout the firm. We're a nearly 300-person firm. And as Marion referred to, a challenge is onboarding the people, but we do the best we can with that. And our new hirees are receptive to whatever we can do. And we make sure that they have special one-on-one sessions with people they need to know in the firm. And it's working. We're working our way through this. How it's affected, I'm sorry, the dog is here, working from home, you get to be with your dog all day too.
I know. I have a dog who actually loves me now, John, because it's the first one I ever spent time with. But yeah,
Mark, I can't imagine you having a dog that didn't love you at any point. But how it's affected my leadership, again, I don't lead the firm, but among other things, by the way, being with the firm is still my 100% thing. But among other things, I have an ambassadorial function. And since mid-March, I have not been out of the Raleigh-Durham area, and therefore I have not visited our office in Charlotte, North Carolina, or in our two offices in Dallas-Fort Worth. And, to be there in person, I value that a lot. I value having direct connections with the people there, and that's just on hold. So
I want to take the talk a little different direction now. Let's talk about leadership and ownership transition. Many of you have been through this in one way, shape, or form. I just want to get your thoughts on it. What do you think are some of the key elements for a business like this to survive going forward in an internal ownership and leadership transition scenario, which I think everybody is in one way, shape, or form?
All right. Hey, I can go first unless someone else wants to.
Go for it.
All right. Westwood's 48 years old, so we've transitioned ownership and leadership multiple times, and I've been around a lot of that time to watch it, and now I'm part of it. And you need to be constantly planning for both. We have an actual transition plan for ownership, a written plan where we monitor where people are at, and we set aside a portion of our profit every year for that transition. We also set aside all the money we collect from stock sales for the repurchase of shares. So, our buy-sell plan requires a year notice for someone to retire. So that gives us some time to make those plans. When it comes to leadership transition, we put a high value on education and mentoring programs, both inside the company and outside the company. We've got a leadership development program that focuses on mentoring that next generation of leaders, and we go out and we bring in other speakers and consultants. Well, Mark, you've helped us, Jamie Claire, Chad, and other consultants have helped us over the years in that program, because as we're mentoring these leaders they're not just going to take over our positions, whether it's my position or a division leader or a market leader or whatever it is, but they're going to be running a company that's larger than what we're running, and they need to be prepared for that. And I'll go back to my beginning story. I started here when I was 24 years old, and we were 18 people. So when I put leaders around me, they need to be smarter than me. They need to be prepared to help us take this company to the next level. So even our strategic plan has a portion that focuses completely on our people and looks at what we need to grow to, into the future.
What happens if you make a bad decision? You invest a lot of time in mentoring somebody, and then 3 or 4 or 5 years later, it dawns on you they are not going to be the one that you need to fill whatever the role is. What do you do in those situations?
If that question's at me, I mean, obviously you start over. You don't keep moving forward. You don't take a bad mistake or a small mistake or a whatever and make it bigger. You have to adjust and find a new solution.
That's where the courage and leadership comes from, right? Is confronting those situations.
Absolutely.
Marion, has that ever happened to you?
Oh, never. So when I think about leadership transition and ownership transition, I would say we are doing an excellent job on leadership transition, and we have a ways to go on ownership transition. And so I'm listening carefully to what John and Paul say. In terms of making mistakes and correcting them quickly, yeah, that's something I've learned over the years. I guess you could say that I'm a person that always just likes to give people a more of a chance, more of an opportunity. And so over the years, I've learned that maybe I need to do things a little bit faster than I, would have in the past in order to make a correction. But I don't remember who said it, maybe either John or Paul earlier, that the goal, I think it was in the video, the goal of Brightfields is to grow each person to their full potential. And so we do a lot of work on that. And sometimes it's not that the person's, on the wrong bus. It's just that they're in the wrong seat, and you have to figure out what seat that they're really going to flourish in. And so, yeah, that's something that we've been working on quite some time. And I think we have a great team and a great leadership team. Next step, ownership transition.
Talk about that sometime, Marion, if you like. John, you've done a great job with your leadership transition, and yet you've remained there too, involved with the company on a certain level all that time. When your successor was actually, had taken the reins. How's that worked out for you as an individual?
It's been an interesting journey. The CEO of our firm, Mike Munn, is 25 years my junior. We appointed him, I promoted him to be our CEO 10 years ago, 10 years and 14 days, October 1, 2010. And we worked together a lot for the first 3 or 4 years of his being the CEO. So I stayed mostly in the background, but we met for a long time each day and worked out matters together. But eventually he has grown in the role, and he absolutely runs the company now. But a couple of things about it. 5 years before I promoted Mike to be president, I took him out to dinner at age 32, 33. And I said, I told him I could see him as the next president of the company. And what he was eating almost fell out of his mouth. But I wanted him to know that. I wanted him to know what his possibilities were right here. I did not want him to get picked off by somebody else who might come along and say, hey, Mike, we've got a vice president role for you over here in this big company. Why don't you come?
Yeah.
And so Mike and I started working together right from that point in time, about 2005. And I moved him around to a few different positions within the company. And then as we were coming out of the Great Recession, which by the way, really hurt us badly, but as we were beginning to get back on our feet from that, I installed Mike. Mike's style of leadership is different from mine. And our firm is better off with him as our CEO now than it would be if I were. My strengths come in starting something up. I'm more of a do-it-yourselfer. Mike is such a strong man of the people, and he is building an organization with capable people at all levels. And I have come to just sit at his feet and marvel. But also, I'm just tremendously blessed that Mike was in our midst and we didn't have to go out and do a national search for who should be next. So again, that has been a real success story.
That brings up a question though, John, I'd like
Go
to ask you. And I'd like to ask the other panelists this as well. Do you think that when you get into the position that you're in, which is the top of your firm's organization hierarchy, whatever it is, and John, I'll include you in that still because you're the founder and you're still present, but do you think there's a temptation to fall into the good cop, bad cop role where you want to be the good cop and then anybody else who works for you has to do all the bad cop stuff? And that makes everybody love you as the leader, but it creates some problems for the other people that are you're asking to do all the dirty work. Do you think that happens as a function of your role?
I've never seen it in our firm, nor have we had any thought of it. It's just unknown to me.
Yeah, me too. I would say I'm the bad cop if there needs to be a bad cop.
Okay, so you're still the bad cop. Okay, that's good. How about you, Paul? What do you think about that?
No, I think that as a leader, you need to do, I expect my teams to, or my leaders to take care of their groups and do that. But at the same time, I need to do that. I need to manage my team and make sure my team is performing at a high level. And if there's some dirty work to do, I need to do it.
Fair enough. So who wants to tell us what your greatest personal challenge has been leading your business and how you overcame it?
2 words: the Great Recession.
And what was the key to your recovery from that? I know you were very dependent on land development, and land development slowed down dramatically. What did you do?
I was running a land development design firm and there wasn't any of it. And that's not a fun situation. I have a philosophy and we have a philosophy at our company that is totally pervasive, that is company first. The company has got to be nurtured and kept healthy, and the company's well-being is more important than the well-being of anybody else. And I took that attitude through the Great Recession. I led by, well, we had to downsize. I caused our mid-level managers to make the cuts that they needed to make, but also we reduced salaries. And I took the lead in that, and I worked as a volunteer for 1.5 years for the company. Other people were on 60% pay or 70% or 80%, depending on their rank in the firm. But nobody was complaining about the reduction in salary. Everybody understood that our strategic plan was down to one word: survive. Let's get through this and let's build back on the other side.
That's the first order of any business, for sure.
That is. So anyway, our mantra is company first.
Very good. How about you, Marion?
Well, I would have to say that was also the largest challenge I've faced. And not being a super experienced business owner, it got away from us further than when, we should have done something sooner, I'll say. So when we really had our, heart attack moment was probably November of 2010. We had a lot of work, but all the other work in the future was drying up, and we were still just continuing to do the work we had. And then that started to dry up, and then we didn't have any work, or just a trickle. So we called our SCORE counselors, and my firm's a lot smaller than your guys' firm. We had probably 35 people at the time, maybe 30 people. We have 46 today. And so we called the score counselors. They came in and they looked at our books and they said, okay, you have a very strong balance sheet and you're going to pop up like a cork. However, you need to shed some people. And of course that was horrifying to me, but we did what we had to do. In February of 2011, we laid off 4 people. We reduced salaries on 11 people. It wasn't reduced salaries, we reduced work days. So instead of a full 40-hour week, they were cut to 30 or some even less. And then my partner and I took half salaries. And then we developed a very fast plan to come out of it. And what we did was we put up big charts, big paper charts on the wall that looked like United Way charts with the thermometer bulb on them. And there were 2 charts. One was dollars in proposals written, and one was dollars in proposals signed. And we told everyone in the company, okay, folks, this is it. You write every proposal you can think of. Don't worry about whether the client wants you to write a proposal or not. Just write a proposal. If it's $1,000, if it's $100,000, just write anything you can think of and then put it out the door. And so we did that. And every day people would run into my partner's office with the proposal that they wrote. Here's $500, here's $10,000. And he would hand color it in on the charts. And everybody could come by every single day and see these charts rising. And so we were aiming for $400,000 in proposals written. And so we started this in March or, end of February. And lo and behold, by the second month, we had like $900,000 in proposals written. And we knew it would be a 3-month turnaround. We had over $1 million the next month. And then that's when our revenue started pumping up as we started getting these things signed. And we never looked back. We used those charts for probably 6 to 8 months. Now we do them on a spreadsheet, but it just was the perfect way to get everyone focused on one goal. And it worked great. Everybody did a fantastic job.
That's a great story. Guys, I'm afraid we're running out of time. I mean, we could do this for hours. I'm sure each of you has so much to offer and has been such an exemplary leader in your firms that I know that we'd have plenty of good conversation that our audience could benefit from. But I really want to thank you for doing this today and sharing, being so open and willing to share your knowledge with everyone else out there.
Mark, I want to thank you. You and Chad and your firm have been large in McAdams Company's life, and we thank you very much for that.
Well, it's been a great experience, John.
Thanks for creating the Jerry Allen Award. There's a lot of awards out there, and this one, it means a lot because of what Jerry Allen meant to you. And watching the video today, I just really felt pretty emotional thinking about the impact that gentleman has made on his company and also his whole community.
He, like the rest of you, really embodied the spirit of this award. Really, really did. Paul, again, we thank you for coming today too.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Mark. I always enjoy talking to you, whether we're texting over a cup of coffee or working on a panel here. You provided a lot of expertise and experience to our business that's really helped us over the years, you and the whole Zweig team. So I appreciate it very much and appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning.
We thank you greatly. So with that, we'll conclude our program.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thank you, John. Thank you, Marion and Paul for joining us today.
Thank you, Olivia, for setting it all up.
Okay. Everyone have a great day.
You too.